Hi all, Jonathan Lee here, creator of ImplementERP.ai and an expert on all things ERP. Here's a scenario. You're 45 days into an ERP implementation. You've worked with the consultants to decide on which modules and what screens you'll be using from that system you picked. It's helpful to know that only 800 of the 4,000 available screens pertain to you. But now let's talk about context. Which of those 800 apply to a team, such as AP? And which apply to an AP clerk within that AP department? That's why Implement ERP is such a critical, massively helpful tool. It provides all of that information visually, so an end user, a project manager, or even a steering committee could easily understand. Here's how our tool works. On the processes page, it shows the major processes that are affected by and included in the ERP implementation. So you have record the report, which is the company consolidations, monthly closes, financial analysis. You have quote to cash, which is the major transaction by which you are generating a quote to a prospect or to a customer. Then if the prospect or customer agrees to the order, the quote, then you produce it, you ship it, and of course you invoice it. So this one would be more of an AR team involved process. But I'm going to get into the procurement process because I had mentioned the AP team and the AP clerk. So what's in the procurement process? Well, you have the sub process first, which is where the company knows they have a need for a particular raw material or indirect good or a consumable like boxes or something like that. And now when you identify the sub process, and we're not talking about who in the company yet, but the fact that a company needs to know what they need in order to generate a requisition and get the PO going, these would be the screens in the ERP system that are needed and used in order for a company to be able to say, we can identify when there's a need for a material. Okay, so again, process, sub-process, and then the screens needed to make that sub-process go. And then you move to the next sub-process, which is the requisition. Then the process after that, you select the item and the vendor. Then you create the PO, issue the PO, potentially update the PO. You receive the material, so that's receiving, okay? And then where you do the three-way match and pay, and that's where the AP team comes into play. So the AP team and the AP clerk knows that in this case, they're going to need the AP payments page, or excuse me, the screen, a bank ledger screen, and a check screen. And there are others, but to keep the example simple, I'm only listing the three. But this is where the context is so key because the AP team, and maybe they really spend most of their time on these three screens, but they should know that the data and the triggers that allow them to know whether to move forward on these are dependent on the screens used by the receiving department in manufacturing or production, and they use a PO receiving screen and a PO receiving list screen, and on and on. They can go as far back as they want. But so the steering committee or the project manager can know all of the screens necessary in order to make the procurement major or mega process work, but it's broken out by the sub-process, and the sub-process maps to the screens that are underneath. So that's how the context is provided. The big picture is in this entire list of all the major processes, all the sub-processes, and then all the screens are listed underneath. And then as you get more and more granular, that AP clerk says, okay, it's good to know all this stuff, but I know for my world, it's going to be these three. Okay. There's so much more here in the tool. What happens when you click these boxes, we'll share that in another video. And then there's also a project scope one that says, well, how many screens are there in total? What do they roll up? How many are ready to go? So again, this will be something that's also shown in a subsequent video. But hopefully this helped, gave you some ideas, and we'll catch you real soon. Thank you.